I was 20 years old, a young student with many dreams about my future, my studies, and the life I wanted to build for myself. I never expected that love would come into my life in such an unusual and surprising way. Most girls around me dreamed of falling in love with someone close to their own age, someone from their college or social circle. But my story was very different. The man who captured my heart was 55 years old. When I first met him, I did not immediately realize that he would become the most important person in my life. At the beginning, he was simply someone I respected. He had a calm personality, a gentle voice, and a way of speaking that made people feel comfortable. Unlike many young men who tried to impress others with loud behavior or careless words, he spoke thoughtfully and listened carefully. The first thing that attracted me to him was the kindness in his eyes and the patience in his behavior. Whenever we talked, I felt that he truly listened to every word I said. That feeling was rare and special. As a student, I often felt stressed about exams, assignments, and my future, but whenever I spoke with him, my worries seemed to disappear for a while. Slowly, our conversations became longer and more meaningful. We talked about life, dreams, challenges, and the lessons people learn as they grow older. His life experience fascinated me. Every story he told carried wisdom and understanding. I admired the way he looked at life with patience and maturity. Without realizing it, I started waiting for the moments when I would see him again or talk to him again. My heart felt peaceful around him, and I began to notice that my feelings were changing. What started as simple respect slowly turned into deep affection. I realized that I cared about him more than I had ever cared about anyone before. Even though there was a big age difference between us, my feelings did not change. In fact, his maturity and gentle nature made me respect him even more. Many people believe that love should only happen between people of similar ages, but my heart did not follow those rules. Love, I learned, does not always appear in the way society expects. Sometimes it appears quietly, slowly, and deeply, until one day you realize that the person you think about every day has already become a part of your heart. As time passed, I began to understand that my feelings for him were not temporary. They were sincere and strong. I admired his honesty, his calm attitude, and the way he treated people with respect. He was not only kind to me, but also to everyone around him. That quality made me trust him even more. Sometimes I wondered what people would think if they knew how I felt about him. I knew that many would be surprised or even criticize me because of the age difference. But whenever I thought about him, those worries seemed small compared to the happiness I felt when we talked or spent time together. My heart kept telling me that this connection was real. I was a young student with many dreams, and he was a mature man with years of experience, yet somehow our worlds met in a way that felt natural and meaningful. The more I got to know him, the more I realized that love is not always about excitement or attraction alone. Sometimes it is about comfort, trust, and the feeling that someone truly understands you. With him, I felt understood. I felt safe sharing my thoughts, my fears, and my hopes for the future. Slowly but surely, my heart accepted a truth that I could no longer ignore. I had fallen deeply in love with a man who was 35 years older than me. And even though I knew that this path might not be easy, I also knew that my feelings were genuine and that my story with him had only just begun. As time passed, the bond between us slowly became deeper and more meaningful. What started as simple conversations slowly turned into something much stronger. Every time we met, I felt a strange happiness inside my heart, a feeling that I had never experienced before. He would often ask me about my studies, my classes, and my plans for the future. Unlike many people who only talk about themselves, he was always interested in listening to me. He encouraged me to focus on my education and reminded me that my dreams were important. This support meant a lot to me because being a student sometimes feels stressful and confusing. There were days when I felt tired or worried about my exams, but whenever I spoke with him, he would calmly give me advice and tell me not to lose confidence in myself. His words were simple, but they carried wisdom that only someone with life experience could share. Slowly, I realized that his presence in my life was becoming very important to me. Even the smallest moments with him felt special. Sometimes we would sit together and talk for a long time about life, about the world, and about the lessons people learn as they grow older. I enjoyed listening to his stories about his past, the challenges he had faced, and the things he had learned through the years. Those stories helped me understand him better and admire him even more. With every conversation, my respect and affection for him continued to grow. I noticed that when I had a good day, I wanted to tell him about it first. And when I had a difficult day, he was the person I wanted to talk to. His calm personality made me feel peaceful, and his kindness made me trust him deeply. Sometimes I would think about the difference in our ages and wonder if our feelings could really become something serious. But whenever we talked or spent time together, that thought disappeared because our connection felt natural and honest. Love does not always appear suddenly like in movies. Sometimes it grows slowly, quietly, until it becomes impossible to ignore. That is exactly what happened to me. One evening, while we were talking about life and happiness, I suddenly realized that my feelings for him were no longer just admiration. They had become love. It was a deep and sincere love that came from my heart. I felt comfortable with him, respected him, and trusted him more than anyone else. In that moment, I understood that my life had changed. Even though I was young and he was much older, my heart had already chosen him. I knew that the road ahead might not be easy because people often judge relationships like ours. But the more I thought about it, the more certain I became that my feelings were real. I was not attracted to him because of money or comfort. I loved him because of his character, his kindness, and the peace I felt whenever he was near me. That realization made my heart both excited and nervous, because loving someone so deeply also means facing many challenges. Yet despite those fears, I felt hopeful that our story could become something beautiful and meaningful if we stayed honest and patient with each other. As my feelings grew stronger, there came a moment when I could no longer keep them hidden inside my heart. For many days I thought about telling him the truth, but I was afraid. I worried that he might think I was too young, or that he might not take my feelings seriously. The age difference between us was large, and I knew that people in society often judge relationships like this. Still, every time I spoke with him, my heart felt closer to him, and the desire to share my true feelings became stronger. One quiet evening, when we were talking peacefully, I finally gathered the courage to speak honestly. My heart was beating fast, and my voice felt slightly nervous, but I told him that he had become very important to me. I explained that the respect and admiration I felt for him had slowly turned into love. For a few moments after I finished speaking, there was silence. He looked thoughtful, as if he was carefully choosing the right words to respond. That silence made me feel even more nervous, because I did not know what he would say. After thinking for a moment, he spoke calmly and kindly. He told me that he cared about me deeply, and that my happiness was important to him. However, he also said that he was worried about the difference in our ages and about how society and my family might react. He did not want my life to become difficult because of a decision made too quickly. His response showed me that he was not only thinking about his own feelings, but also about my future. Instead of feeling disappointed, I respected him even more in that moment. His words showed maturity and responsibility. I explained to him that I had already thought about these challenges. I told him that my feelings were sincere and that I was not afraid of what people might say, because true happiness comes from choosing the person who truly understands you. Our conversation continued for a long time that evening. We talked about life, about responsibilities, and about the courage it takes to follow one's heart. By the end of that discussion, we both understood that our connection was real and meaningful. Although we knew that many challenges might come in the future, we also knew that honesty and patience could help us face those challenges together. That night became a very important moment in our story because it was the first time we openly accepted the feelings that had quietly grown between us. After we both accepted our feelings for each other, a new chapter of my life quietly began. I felt happy and peaceful because I had finally shared my heart with him, and he had listened with kindness and respect. However, deep inside I also knew that the biggest challenge was still ahead of us, my family. In our society, family opinions matter a lot, especially when it comes to marriage. I loved and respected my parents, and I knew that they always wanted the best for me. But I also knew that telling them about my love for a man who was 55 years old would not be easy. For several days I kept thinking about how to start that conversation. My heart felt heavy because I did not want to hurt my family or create conflict at home. At the same time, I could not ignore my feelings because they were honest and sincere. Finally, one evening when we were all sitting together at home, I gathered the courage to speak. My voice was calm but serious as I told them that there was someone important in my life. At first they listened quietly, But when I told them about the age difference, their expressions immediately changed. My parents were shocked and confused. They could not understand why a young student like me would want to marry a man so much older. My mother looked worried, and my father became silent for a long time. They asked many questions: how long I had known him, why I liked him, and whether I had really thought carefully about my future. Those days were very difficult for me. My parents believed that I should marry someone close to my own age, someone who could grow with me in the same stage of life. They were afraid that I might regret my decision later. Their concerns came from love and care, but hearing their doubts still made me feel sad. I tried my best to explain that my feelings were not temporary, and that the man I loved treated me with respect and kindness. I told them that he supported my education and encouraged me to follow my dreams instead of limiting them. Even though I spoke honestly, my family was still uncertain. For some time they refused to accept the idea. During that period, I often felt torn between my love for my family and my love for him. Whenever I talked to him about the situation, he remained calm and patient. He never asked me to go against my parents or argue with them. Instead, he encouraged me to keep speaking to them with respect and patience. He told me that family trust is important and that time can sometimes change people's opinions. His understanding and maturity helped me stay strong during those difficult days. I realized again why I admired him so much. Gradually, I continued to speak with my parents about my feelings. I did not try to force them to accept my decision quickly. Instead, I shared with them the reasons why I respected and trusted him. I explained that love is not only about age, but also about character, responsibility, and emotional understanding. Sometimes our conversations became emotional, but I always tried to remain calm because I knew anger would only make things worse. Over time, my parents began to notice how serious and determined I was. They realized that my feelings were not just a passing attraction but something much deeper. Although they still had doubts, they started to listen more carefully to what I was saying. My mother asked more questions about his personality, his life, and the way he treated me. My father remained quiet most of the time, but I could see that he was thinking deeply about everything I had shared. Those moments gave me a small sense of hope. At the same time, the man I loved continued to behave with dignity and patience. He never tried to rush the situation or create pressure. Instead, he focused on showing respect for my family and for the values that were important to them. He told me that if our love was truly strong, then it would survive these challenges. His words gave me strength and confidence. Slowly, the tension in my home began to soften. My parents were still unsure, but they were no longer completely rejecting the idea. I could feel that they were beginning to understand how serious my feelings were. That stage of my life taught me an important lesson about love and patience. True love is not only about happiness and romance. Sometimes it also requires courage, understanding, and the willingness to face difficult conversations. Although the future was still uncertain, I remained hopeful that with time, honesty, and patience, my family might eventually see the sincerity of my heart and the goodness of the man I loved. As the days passed, the situation in my home slowly began to change. My parents were still unsure about my decision, but they also started to see how serious my feelings were. I was no longer speaking about a temporary attraction or a simple friendship. I spoke with calm confidence about the man I loved and about the respect and happiness I felt when I was with him. My mother sometimes asked me quiet questions about him, how he behaved, what kind of life he had lived, and whether he truly cared about my future. I answered every question honestly. I told her that he always encouraged me to continue my studies and never asked me to give up my dreams. I explained that he treated me with kindness and patience, and that he respected my family, even though they did not yet accept him. My father remained more serious, but even he began to listen more carefully instead of rejecting the idea immediately. I could see that both of them were thinking deeply about everything I had said. After many discussions, my parents finally agreed to meet him in person. This moment felt very important to me because I believed that once they saw his true personality, their fears might slowly disappear. I told him about the meeting, and he remained calm as always. He said that he would speak honestly and respectfully with my parents because he understood how important their trust was. The day of the meeting arrived, and I felt both nervous and hopeful. When he came to my home, he greeted my parents politely and spoke with humility. My parents asked him many questions about his life, his work, and his intentions. Instead of becoming defensive, He answered everything calmly and sincerely. He told them that he respected me and that he would always support my education and my dreams. He also said that he understood their worries as parents and that he would never try to separate me from my family. His words were simple but meaningful. During that conversation, I noticed something slowly changing in my parents' expressions. At first they had been very serious and cautious, but as they listened to him, they began to see the honesty in his character. My mother noticed how respectfully he spoke, and my father appreciated the calm confidence in his answers. They realized that he was not careless or selfish. He was a mature man who understood responsibility. The meeting lasted a long time, and by the end of it the atmosphere in the room felt much lighter than before. Although my parents were still thinking carefully about the future, they no longer seemed completely against the idea of our relationship. In the days that followed, my parents spoke with each other privately many times. I waited patiently, trying not to pressure them because I knew that this decision was important for everyone. Finally, one evening my father called me to sit with him and my mother. My heart was beating quickly because I did not know what they would say. My father spoke slowly and seriously. He told me that they still worried about the age difference, but they also saw that the man I loved was respectful, responsible, and sincere. They could see that I truly cared about him and that my decision was not made without thought. Because of that, they were willing to accept my choice. Hearing those words filled my heart with relief and happiness. I felt grateful to my parents for trusting my judgment and for giving our relationship a chance. Soon after that, our families began to discuss the possibility of marriage. The atmosphere was very different from the tension we had experienced before. There was now respect, understanding, and hope. When our engagement was finally agreed upon, I felt as if a heavy weight had been lifted from my heart. The man I loved was not only my partner but also someone my family now respected. That moment taught me that patience, honesty, and calm communication can sometimes solve even the most difficult problems. My love story had faced its first great challenge, and with trust and understanding, we had found a way to move forward together toward a future filled with hope. After our families agreed to our relationship, a new and beautiful phase of my life began. The tension and uncertainty that had once surrounded our love slowly disappeared, replaced by hope and happiness. When our engagement was officially confirmed, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace in my heart. The man I loved was no longer just someone special in my private world. He was now accepted by my family and recognized as my future husband. My parents, who had once been worried and hesitant, began to treat him with warmth and respect. They could see that he truly cared about me and that his intentions were sincere. For me, this acceptance meant everything. It showed that patience and honesty can sometimes open doors that once seemed impossible to cross. The preparations for our wedding started soon after the engagement. My family and his family worked together to plan a simple but meaningful ceremony. I was still a student, and he often reminded everyone that my education should remain a priority. This was another reason my parents respected him more and more. He never tried to control my choices or change my goals. Instead, he encouraged me to continue learning and building my future. Sometimes we would sit together and talk about what our life would be like after marriage. These conversations were filled with excitement and dreams. I imagined a life where we could support each other through every challenge and celebrate every small success together. The day of our wedding finally arrived, and it felt like a dream becoming real. My heart was full of emotions, joy, excitement, and a little nervousness as well. Weddings often symbolize the beginning of a new journey, and for me that journey felt very meaningful because of everything we had already overcome. When I saw him standing there calmly and smiling, I felt reassured that I had chosen the right person. The ceremony itself was simple but beautiful. Family members, relatives, and friends gathered to celebrate the moment with us. There were smiles, warm wishes, and many blessings for our future together. My parents, who once worried about my decision, looked proud and hopeful as they watched the ceremony. Seeing that happiness in their eyes made the moment even more special for me. After the wedding, I moved into his home, and our life together truly began. The first days felt new and exciting because everything was changing around me. However, what comforted me the most was the calm and supportive environment he created. He treated me with the same kindness and respect that had first made me admire him. We spent our evenings talking about our days, sharing our thoughts, and planning the future step by step. Sometimes we would laugh about small things, and sometimes we would discuss serious matters like responsibilities and goals. Those conversations helped us understand each other even better. Marriage taught me that love is not only about romantic moments, it is also about companionship and teamwork. We supported each other through everyday responsibilities and challenges. When I felt tired from my studies, he encouraged me to stay focused and reminded me why my education was important. When he faced difficulties in his work or responsibilities, I listened and tried to give him emotional support. Our relationship was built on respect and understanding, which made our home feel peaceful and strong. Looking back at everything we had experienced, the doubts, the conversations with my family, and the patience it took to reach this point, I felt grateful. Our story had not been easy, but those challenges had made our bond stronger. I realized that true love often requires courage and persistence. It asks people to trust each other and to believe in the strength of their connection, even when others may not understand it. As we continued our life together, I felt confident that our partnership was built on something genuine and lasting. The journey that began with a simple conversation had grown into a meaningful life shared between two people who respected and cared deeply for each other. As the months passed after our marriage, I slowly began to understand the true meaning of partnership and companionship. Life with him was calm, supportive, and filled with small moments of happiness that made every day special. Many people had once doubted our relationship because of the difference in our ages, but living together proved that love is not measured by numbers. It is measured by respect, understanding, and the way two people care for each other. Every morning when I woke up, I felt grateful that I had followed my heart. He treated me with the same kindness and patience that first made me admire him. Even though he had many years of life experience, he never made me feel small or inexperienced. Instead, he always encouraged me to grow, learn, and build my future with confidence. My studies were still very important to me, and he supported me in every possible way. Sometimes when I was busy preparing for exams or completing assignments, he would remind me not to lose hope and to keep believing in myself. His encouragement helped me stay focused during difficult times. I realized that true love does not limit a person's dreams, it helps them reach higher. Our evenings were often peaceful and full of meaningful conversations. We talked about our goals, about the future we wanted to build together, and about the lessons we had both learned from life. I enjoyed listening to his experiences because they helped me see the world in a deeper and wiser way. At the same time, he enjoyed hearing my ideas and youthful perspectives. In many ways, our differences made our connection stronger because we could learn from each other. Sometimes people around us still felt surprised when they discovered our age difference. Some asked curious questions, while others simply smiled and wished us happiness. At first, those reactions made me feel a little uncomfortable, but with time I learned that the opinions of others cannot control a life built on genuine love. What mattered most was the trust and respect we shared. Our relationship was based on friendship as much as love. We supported each other during difficult moments and celebrated each other's achievements. Those everyday experiences slowly built a strong foundation for our marriage. I also noticed how much my parents' attitudes had changed over time. They had once been worried and uncertain, but now they could see the happiness in my life. Whenever they visited us, they were treated with respect and warmth. My husband always welcomed them kindly and showed appreciation for their trust. Seeing this harmony between my family and my married life made me feel peaceful and proud. It reminded me that patience and honesty had helped us overcome the biggest obstacles at the beginning of our story. As I looked toward the future, I felt hopeful and confident. I knew that every relationship faces challenges, but I also believed that our bond was strong enough to face them together. Love had brought two very different lives together, a young student with dreams and a mature man with years of experience. Instead of separating us, those differences had created balance in our lives. He brought wisdom, stability, and calmness into my world, while I brought energy, enthusiasm, and new dreams into his. Together we built a life based on care, trust, and understanding. Our story taught me an important lesson. True love can appear in unexpected ways and at unexpected times. When it is genuine, it grows through patience, honesty, and respect. Many people search their whole lives for someone who truly understands them. I was fortunate to find that connection in a place where I never expected it. As we continued our journey together, I believed that the future would hold many more memories, challenges, and joys. And through it all, we would face life side by side, supporting each other with the same love that first brought us together.